Dear Class 3, how are you? Ain't life grand? Last week we played New Orleans. More cockroaches out back than faces out front, but folks seemed to like us. Leastways, they did not throw things like in Tucson. Dearest Everett says not to worry when they throw things, 'cause sometimes they throw the most useful objects, suspenders and fruit and real money even. Says one time a lady throwed a cat at him and it was in kitten and the company kept it and sold the kittens and raised a good price. Talking of which, someone of your acquaintance is also in a interesting condition. What do you know? Little Annie Mae, she plays the pretty heroines if you recall, is leaving us to marry a bank teller next month. We wish her well, naturally. Still, it leaves a hole in the company. A pretty ingenue is hard to find. Dearest Everett says worse things happen at sea. Oh, Lord, if you could just see him playing Cyrano right now. He is sublime. Sorry to hear how Sarah Waters is sick. Give her a kiss from me and say honey and whiskey is best for a bad throat. Will write from St. Paul. Hope Miss May March is still making moves to improve on what God made you. Your ever-loving Loucien Shades Crew. Cissy folded the letter and gave it back to Miss May March, whose thin white face, like a dish towel resting on a puddle of wine, had grown pink around the edges. Thank you, Cecilia. You may return to your seat. Miss May March did not approve of the letters Class 3 received from their previous teacher. To give Miss March her due, she never actually binned them, but she did not dwell on their contents either. Talk of cockroaches and pretty ingenues and interesting conditions was not on her curriculum. 1 year earlier, Miss Loucien had taught the children the sum total of everything she knew. But she had married a traveling actor and left Olive Academy for a life in theater. Miss May March was well aware of the mark her predecessor had left on Class 3, but to her way of thinking it was the kind of mark that should have been quickly washed away, like the soap ring around a bathtub. There was something shocking about the woman, with her chaotic handwriting and her creative spelling and her gypsy existence. Her misspelled letters always put the children into a restless, contrary mood. This very minute, Miss March knew perfectly well they were comparing her with Miss Loucien, and marking her a very poor second. Knowing this sometimes made her spiteful. Take out your slates and write the following proper nouns: New Orleans, Tucson, St. Paul. Fuller Monterey, pray tell me, what does a proper noun have? She knew he would not know. The Monterey boys had less than one brain between the two of them. Miss Loucien would not have known either. Perhaps this was a chance to impress on Class 3 that Miss March alone had the power to make of them literate, civilized citizens. Fuller Monterey drew in his tortoise-shaped head and refused to answer. He looked even more sullen than usual. Habakkuk Warboys, then. What does a proper noun have? Kookie, however, was quite equal to the challenge. Panache, he said. Exclamation marks, said Tibby Bowden, sticking up her hand. Clean linen, said Barney McKinley. First use of the washroom, said Fred Stamp. Cissy Sisney took no part in this. Her soul was still held between the folds of Miss Loucien's letter. She was imagining the footlights, the gilt moldings of the opera boxes, suspenders and kittens flying through the air, the noise of applause. Cissy lived for the days when a letter arrived from her old schoolteacher. Miss Loucien's letters were an event, an occasion almost. Cissy was always given the honor of reading them out loud because her reading was best. And afterward she liked to sit and savor what she had read, to imagine she was there on the road with the Bright Lights Theater Company, seeing all those charlatans and celebrities, seeing all the big cities and out-of-the-way settlements, singing for her supper. It was so long since the Bright Lights had left town that she could barely remember the pretty Annie Mae. How would the company manage without someone to play the helpless, screaming heroines? Cissy wondered if, at 12, she was old enough to audition for the job of ingenue. Perhaps she and Kookie could run away to New Orleans, wherever that was, and join the Bright Lights Theater Company and star in The Perils of Nancy and see Miss Loucien and Everett Crew again.